Hello and welcome back to Eden's Reach. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after the husky Adrian returned to his apartment to find that he had been evicted and that all his stuff is now missing. A low volume beeping wakes me from my light sleep. I groggily turn to try and ignore it, but it's incessant. Unable to go back to sleep, feeling slowly returns to my body as the pain from laying on the floor makes itself known. It's a sharp pain starting from my back. It's beginning to look like I wasn't going to get any more sleep, so I instead sluggishly turned to pick up my phone. It was 3:30 in the morning. I swiped through the home screen, seeing the several texts Dylan sent me. Weirdly, though, I had several missed calls from Oswald. Why is he calling me at such a ridiculous hour? I had little time to contemplate as my phone rings once more. It's Oswald again. I sigh deeply and accept the call this time. Hey, Adrian. Thank goodness you picked up. I was starting to worry that something bad might have happened to you. You... You can say that, I suppose. A moment of silence passes, prompting me to clear my throat that was kind of dry from crying myself to sleep. I had to at least try not to sound like a total wreck right now. What's wrong? You sound terrible. Well, there goes that idea. I... I just... I don't... My eyes begin to well up. I can't seem to bring myself to talk. I want to tell someone. I need to. But the tears, they won't stop flowing in my throat. It's tightening even as I try to stop sobs from escaping. I take deep breaths, trying my best to calm down, but I just can't seem to compose myself. Adrian, here, why don't you come out for a bit? We can talk things through better in person. I eventually let out a weak grunt of approval. Oswald was seemingly able to calm me down just like that. Satisfied, Oswald ended the call. I take a few more moments to fully calm down before standing up from the foam flooring. I try my best to prepare as much as I can before heading out, though there wasn't much else to do besides putting on my new jacket and carrying my DJ pad along. Satisfied with myself, I head out to the cold open air. I just take a taxi to the bar. I reach the bar much faster than anticipated. I go out of my cab, and the thin outline of the neon greets me once more. I expect Max to be at the front entrance, but in his place was Oswald instead. He waves me over with a warm smile, and I quickly approach where he stands. He surveys me from head to toe, probably gauging out my emotions. I merely look away as he does so, prompting him to finish faster. Hey, Adrian, was the trip back here okay? Ugh, he's trying to sound friendly, most likely due to what happened earlier. It's not that I am ungrateful for the gesture, but I've grown to hate when people do this kind of thing to me. It's just like they did back then, back when people pitied me for dropping out. I just let out a soft sigh and attempt to humor his attempts, not really wanting to land myself in more trouble than I already had. I... I guess it was. That's good, at least. Now, what were you gonna tell me? I really thought that I had already finished crying all my tears out earlier, before I got there, but they slowly began falling down the sides of my muzzle once more. I feel my body shrivel up where I stood, the sensation of numbness slowly creeping across my being. It's all gone. I've got nothing left. Nothing left? What do you mean? I went straight home, like you suggested, but when I got there, everything that I had was gone. All my furniture, my clothes and electronics, even my food. Everything was just gone. I remain silent for a few moments afterwards. Meanwhile, Oswald doesn't respond. I could, however, hear him grumbling under his breath. He seems annoyed. That's an unexpected reaction. I thought he'd be more sympathetic. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry this happened to you. He says in a gentle and worried tone. I don't really have the energy to properly process his concern, though, but I am grateful for the sentiment. Here, I'll send you payment for the gig earlier. You can also use one of the empty rooms we have here, if you need to. I guess a place to stay wouldn't be so bad. It would definitely be better than the floor, but Are you sure it's fine? Of course it is. Don't worry. I'll sort things out when we get there. You don't have to be concerned about anything. All right. Oswald walks towards the entrance of the bar and opens the door. I stand behind him and think of what to say, what to do, what the future holds, if I even get that far. So, where will I be staying? The backstage? The employee's room? Oswald turns to me after a clicking sound comes from his direction. He has a rather confused expression on him, most likely from what I said. What? No, no, no. You aren't going to be sleeping there. I was actually waiting for you to arrive so I can finally close up. Oh, did you have to wait long? Not really. I had to wait till Dylan was able to get home on his own, though. He actually just left a few minutes before you arrived. A small speck of concern assaults my mind when I hear Dylan's name. Is he gonna be alright? He was a bit shaken up, but he'll recover. Hearing that gives me some peace of mind. Not all the worries were laid to rest, though. Um, Oswald? What about the two men from earlier? He grimaces at the mention of those two, but he quickly brushes it off himself. You don't have to worry about them. I made sure that they wouldn't bother you, or anyone for that matter, again. I stare at him silently while wondering what exactly he did to those two. An awkward silence falls between us. Oswald claps his hands together, taking this opportunity to fix his rather rugged-looking tux. Strange. It seemed a lot cleaner when I first got here. I quickly dismiss those thoughts, though, and just chalk it up to another day at the bar. Being the owner must have its own difficulties after all. He leads me further into the bar than I had been earlier. The place is mostly empty at this point and lights are off, leaving this rather unsettling feeling to the place. Oswald walks towards the same door at the other end of the bar where he directed those two men to work things out. He opens the door and I follow not too far behind him. The door closes behind me on its own, and the scenery that greets me immediately arouses heavy suspicion. The door leads into a tight alleyway with an entrance on one end, the one behind me, and a thick wall on the other end, the direction that Oswald's walking to. I pause slightly, but he notices. He then signals me to follow, and I comply despite my growing uneasiness. He stops in front of a thick concrete wall and begins fiddling his armlet as he stares at the dead end in front of him. My skepticism rises, and I slowly begin to doubt that he's bringing me anywhere near a bed. He lets out an annoyed grunt, nearly smacking his own wrist in frustration. It's kind of like how you smack a faulty remote in an attempt to get it to work. Come on, you stupid mechanism! A little while after grunting, the wall ever so slightly shakes, causing some dust to fall off. After a heavy sigh, he fiddles around with it a bit more. After he lets out a satisfied huff, the wall in front of us comes sliding down, a metallic clinging and clanging coming from below. That takes me by surprise. Oswald starts stepping in and signals for me to follow. Now this is definitely not normal. In fact, this is extremely unsettling. He quickly goes down the steps, and I inch towards the entrance, completely hesitant to follow. Oswald notices my hesitation and stops midway, half of his body already out of sight, hidden in the darkness below. Look, I understand this looks rather sketchy, but please trust me. Well, it's not like I have a better choice at the moment. Actually, there is Dylan's apartment, but it's like on the other side of the city. I'm too tired and too strapped for cash to get there, even if I did just get paid. I guess Oswald's right. I... Okay, I trust you. Come on then, let's get those feet moving. The lights are motion activated, by the way. I do as I'm told and start walking down the steps, listening to Oswald's footsteps echoing within the inky blackness of the stairwell. One after the other, a set of lights slowly reveal a short tunnel situated below, with a speck of light faintly glowing towards the end as it bends. While we walk, my curiosity starts to grow. I begin to wonder why Oswald is doing all of this. All of this all seems a bit too complex for him to get me a bed for the rest of one night. So, Oswald? Yes? Why are you going out of your way to help me? How do I put this? You seem a bit too involved and overly concerned for someone you barely even know. I have my reasons. Let's just say that there's a lot more to the situation than it appears. His answer only serves to make me more curious, but before I manage to question him further, we reach the end of the tunnel. It connects to a large room teeming with quite a variety of things: technological equipment, couches, panels, all of it being stored here. A woman, an orange tiger, is pacing back and forth across a large monitor and several different smaller ones, her focus unwavering. Seated at one of the couches is Max, but in a different clothing. He was handling what appears to be a personal panel, scrolling and looking rather bored before Oswald greets him. Well, you sure took your sweet time closing up shop. Sorry, had to deal with a few things. The two immediately look in our direction, first with a look of happy familiarity, but then their expressions change as soon as they lay their eyes on me. The woman's expression becomes that of curiosity. Before I can get a read on Max, though, he suddenly stands from his seat. What is he doing here? Max, it's just Adrian. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about? What do you mean, nothing to worry about? Why the hell did you bring someone in here? Max briskly paces towards me, a sense of violence in his gait, but Oswald blocks the way, keeping me from the male tiger's reach. Get the fuck out of the way! What are you even fucking planning this time, Oswald? I'm not planning anything. He just needs a place to stay. Oh, so you hired a homeless DJ for the bar, and now you brought him here? Real nice, you fucking idiot. Oswald growls as he grabs Max and takes him to the center of the room. I just stand there by the entrance, keeping my distance from the two. EdenCorp has something to do with this, Max. Oh, and that's supposed to make me feel better? It was their fault he's homeless now. We aren't a fucking charity, Oz. Why do we have to take responsibility for this pup? Max, it's our fault that he got into this situation in the first place. And how sure are we that he isn't some spy for them, huh? If that husky turns out to be working for them, then you effectively spoon-fed our location to the enemy. If Adrian was indeed a spy, I'd sure be able to sniff out his intentions from a mile away. You know that damn well, Max. You aren't fucking perfect. You'll make mistakes, and this little runt might end up being that mistake. You, of all people, should know that I'm a better judge of character between the two of us. Why can't you just trust my fucking judgment for once? And what good has trusting your ass ever done for us, huh? Enough! The tigress intervenes, separating the two much bigger men before they lunge at each other's throats. The two continue to growl while giving each other death glares as they make distance grow between them. If the DJ doesn't end up leaking our location, the two of you having these screaming matches fucking will. Max, can you just, I don't know, go to your room and calm down? But Alice! Now! Max grumbles and turns to leave, but not before he looks at me with cold and bitter eyes. He disappears into the hallway right next to the couch he was previously sitting on. I could hear the sound of someone punching a stone wall echoing from his direction. And bring a fucking punching bag while you're at it! Leave me the fuck alone! The tigress, whose name is apparently Alice, grumbles while fixing her glasses, letting out a heavy sigh afterwards. Ugh, what a hothead. He was much calmer back when we were kids. I'm pretty sure he got that from a certain someone. Oswald sits on the couch and begins to unwind. Alice, on the other hand, raises her brow at the wolf, which she notices. Oh, what? Don't you what, me? You have a lot of explaining to do. What explaining? Allison points at me, and Oswald quickly connects the dots. It seems that the scuffle with Max made him forget about me for a bit. Ah, I can explain. Just do it after you pick up Allie. They dropped her off at the Park Avenue. Okay, okay. Just don't give me another mouthful. Oswald stands and walks towards the exit, patting my back as he passes me by. I'm left in Alice's company. The tigress then cautiously approaches me. I'm sorry you had to see that. They aren't usually this rowdy, believe me. I sure hope not. Those two look scary. They kind of have to be. They're technically the leaders of our little group here. What group? I'll explain everything once I get all the deets of you from Ozzy. For now, we'll start with this. Why do he bring you here? I assume that Ozzy just means Oswald, by process of elimination. Thank you, oh great multiple choice tests in high school. I blush a bit as I'm honestly embarrassed and guilty to have all this happen just for some decent sleep. I, kinda need a bed. Well, you're in luck. There's a spare bedroom in here. You can just use that one. Alright. She coyly directs me to the same hallway that Max went through earlier, which makes me nervous that I'll meet him on the way in his angered state. Alice notices my apprehension, a smirk on her face as she turns to fully face me again. Don't worry. The spare room is closer to here than Max's. Besides, he has plenty of time to calm himself. That is, of course, unless he wants to get another earful from me, and believe me, he definitely doesn't want that. Right. We walk towards the hallway, each side littered with a row of doors from end to end. She stops at the closest door to the right and opens it for me. Here we are. Now, it isn't exactly first class, but it'll have to do. It's okay. I'm not really picky with accommodations. That makes both of us. Best get some sleep while you can. We'll just have to catch you up on things later, preferably when those two blockheads aren't around. Blockheads? Who else would I be referring to? I admit, that did get a chuckle out of me. Thanks, Alice. Whoa there, we haven't even been acquainted yet. Let's hold off from the first name basis till after I get to know you better. Oh, sorry about that. Rookie mistake. Happens to the best of us. Right. I'll just go ahead and sleep now. Smart move. I enter the room as Alice begins to walk away. Dim lights immediately turn on as I enter. Seems like every light here is automatic. I immediately set my sights on the bed, crashing into it in one swift motion, not bothering to even take my jacket or shoes off. I just want to end this extremely long and utterly exhausting day. The bed isn't as soft as my old one, but it gets the job done just fine regardless. Better than the foam flooring at least. I begin to drift off as soon as I close my eyes. Psst. A mild shaking gently pulls me into a half-awake state. A hush call pierces through my ear. I attempt to ignore the disturbance at first, but it doesn't stop. Whatever the sensation came from pokes and prods several parts of my body until I eventually cave in. Hmm? What the? My slumber is once again short-lived. I open my eyes slowly, seeing a blurry, vaguely familiar, burly figure towering over me. Whoever it is covers most of the nightlights. My vision ever so slowly starts to clear, and before me turns out to be Oswald in a more casual set of clothing. Hey, do you mind coming out a bit? I want to show you something. Can it wait until after I get more sleep? What time is it anyway? 5:30 in the morning. 2 hours? How many times is Oswald going to wake me up? I hope this doesn't become a regular thing. This better be worth it. It will be, I promise. Oswald leads me towards the door, and then straight to the exit of the base, rather hastily, our quick pace knocking me out of my tired stupor instantly. We briskly go up the steps, and he quickly opens the door when we get to the entrance. He leads me through a winding staircase, one that goes up several floors. Oswald nearly pushes me up the steps, leaving almost no effort on my part to actually go up aside from moving my legs. The wolf continues to push me up the highest floor. Before we reach it, though, he places one of his paws over my eyes. What are you doing? Shh! You'll ruin the surprise! I go ahead and just concede to whatever he was planning to do. A moment later, I hear a door slide open in front of me. Specks of light peek through the small gaps between Oswald's fingers, and I could feel Oswald's hold lighten as the light intensifies. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Oswald removes his paw from my eyes and causes me to squint after being in the darkness for a bit. When my vision adjusts back to normal, I'm greeted by one of the most breathtaking views of Bayline City that I've ever seen in my life. This place, that turns out to be the rooftop of the bar, had an amazing view of the sunrise. It's beautiful. Hey, I knew you'd love it. Really? How do you know I would? Because I've never met anybody who didn't. I agree. Who wouldn't like this kind of view? The sunrise is spectacular here. The taller buildings frame the ball of light slowly rising from the horizon, lined by the sea. The clouds in the sky painted in bright yellow tones, blending to their normally white coloration. The sky in front of us displays a gradient ranging from the blues of the night to the yellows of the morning. You know, this place never fails to give me hope. Hope? Yep, hope. For what? That tomorrow will be less shittier than today, for starters. I'm sure that's one of the things you're wishing for. Well, with this view, it's already gone a lot better. Heh, good. Oswald hands me something while I continue to watch the sunrise unfolding in front of me. I turn my attention to it and I see that it's my headphones, kept neat and tidy without so much as a scratch on it. My headphones? You left it on the stage. I've never seen anything like it, so it caught my attention quite easily. Well, I did make them myself. I can't believe I forgot about them. After what happened last night, it's understandable that it'd slip your mind. I couldn't even deny it. Last night was so eventful that my mind ended up all over the place. As Oswald and I watched the sunrise, I can't help but think about how kind he'd been to me throughout all of this. I think it's quite rare for someone to be like this. I take a quick glance at him as I clutch my headphones. Hey Oswald? Yeah? Thank you. He looks so tired. Like, let me sleep. A few hours pass, allowing me to get a good night's rest, albeit rather short, in my room. Well, it's most like a good morning's rest than anything, but that's besides the point. A short while later, I start hearing several distinct noises coming from outside. I slowly open my eyes to stare at the door while I lay flat on my bed, waves of curiosity washing over me and making me want to see what's happening on the other side. My body begins fighting with my brain as soon as I stand up, though, with a sinking feeling that makes me slump back onto my bed and stay there, leaving me in a personal, torturous cycle of playing hot and cold with opening the door. Midway through my hesitation, it suddenly slides open. My vision is suddenly fixated on the silhouette of a large figure blocking the doorway. I stumble slightly backwards when I see Max leaning on the doorframe with an apathetic look in his eyes. Oh, hi? He glances my way as I stutter in front of him, sighing under his breath. Ugh, just get your ass over to the briefing room. The briefing room? It's the first room you saw when Oswald brought you here. Alice called for you. What would she want with me? Beats me. He moves out of the way to let me pass. As I walk past him, though, he mutters something under his breath. In any way. Huh? Max raises a brow at me, once more before walking towards the briefing room. Does it matter? You're gonna be leaving soon anyway. What? Hmm. Why do you look so surprised? We never discussed that you could stay for any longer than one night. I guess that's true. But... The tiger sighs once more before turning to face me. Look, let me save you the trouble. Alice is most likely going to tell you that, only she's going to sugarcoat it. But now, you know better. He turns and starts walking in the direction of the briefing room, leaving me behind to my worries. I guess it's true. I shouldn't have expected any more than one night's stay around here. But where else am I to go? Am I being too optimistic to bet on the people's goodwill nowadays? Now that I think about it, it does sound pretentious and kind of selfish for me to expect some kind of special treatment, especially from absolute strangers. Well, I suppose I'll have to get ready to leave either way. I wrap myself in an embrace for a bit before I sheepishly proceed to the briefing room. The briefing room is about as empty as I had seen it the night before. There's Max leaning in a corner, eyes closed, probably keeping to himself. He seems a lot more serene when he's all by his lonesome like this. I'd much rather avoid tangling with him even if I do end up staying here. It's only been less than a day, yet I already know that his personality doesn't mix well with mine. In an effort to avoid getting into the invisible radius of Max's wrath, I shimmy around the opposite corner, slowly inching myself closer to where Alice stands. The tigress seems to be deep in concentration, directed at the large screens in front of her. She turns her head in my direction, seemingly enough for her to see me in her peripherals. However, she's acting as if I'm not even there. I inch closer to her, trying to see what has her extremely focused. Her figure isn't that big, so I'm able to peek through some of the panels she has floating around her. One of them has a picture of me, and some blocks of text trailing down beyond the panel. I try to read what was on it, but I'm caught off guard when Alice collapses it and turns to me. Hey there, Sleeping Beauty. Rest well? I'm fine, I suppose. Your beds are a lot softer than the floor. It better be. It wasn't exactly cheap outfitting all of these bedrooms. I chuckle a little at her snark, feeling my mood starting to lighten up a bit. So, what was it that you needed from me? Her smile slowly dissipates. In its place is a stern, albeit uneasy expression. She turns her head from her desk before giving her attention to me, breathing out a heavy sigh in the process. Well, it's about your arrangement and staying here. A pit in my stomach forms, knowing full well what she's about to tell me. What about it? Well, it's a little hard to explain. Well, Adrian, you see... Ugh, just get to the point already. Max suddenly blurts out, clearly listening in on our conversation. Shut it, Max! Alex retorts while I stand awkwardly in the middle of the tension that formed between them, seemingly out of nowhere. Right. You, can't stay here. I cringe internally as Alice confirms what Max said earlier. That is, unless you join our group. Huh? Before we even notice, Max is already stomping towards us, his scowl shifting into nothing short of its subdued anger. Alright, sis. What crap are you peddling on? I flinch at Max's sudden advance, while Alice stays undeterred, not even passing so much as a quick glance at the large tiger. It was our decision. Our? I didn't hear any discuss. Mine and Oswald's. What? Max, visibly taken aback, face palms at what seems to be an absurdity to him. This is ridiculous. Look, Max, he's better staying here with us than out there in the open. Because of the goodwill of our own hearts? He says it rather flippantly, mocking the female. To keep our location from being leaked, you idiot! Of course. And can you explain to me why you didn't bother to tell me about that? Would you have said anything besides no? No. Then we're done talking. A short while after that, rather amusing spat between the two, Oswald comes in from the entrance, behind Max, holding 2 paper bags. They seem filled to the brim, the contents peeking out from the top of the rough, brown texture of the bags. What's going on here? I can hear screaming from the other end of the hallway. Oh great, here comes the pup's savior. I'm gonna assume you already filled Adrian in. I was about to, but someone had to interrupt. Max rolls his eyes and proceeds to just close himself off from the two, scoffing as he goes back to his corner. Alright, now that he's out of the way... Alice. There's a hint of sternness to his voice, almost as if he's reprimanding Alice. Right. Gotta explain everything to the newbie. Let's just move on, shall we? Right. Oswald moves to the side in a rather sluggish manner, while Alice expands a specific panel from her desk to fully display all the information in it. While I do find what Alice has in store for me rather interesting and honestly a bit overwhelming, I can't help but notice the disappointed look on Oswald's face. I take a quick glance at Max, having returned to his sulking spot, wearing a similar expression about him, though he's a lot more sullen than annoyed. Alright, Adrian, before I go about the nitty-gritty, I'm gonna need your verbal confirmation. Alice takes out a rather small box from her desk drawer. She opens it in front of me to reveal an armlet-like device inside. Will you join the Midnight Sun? She asks me in a rehearsed fashion. Sure? Your response needs to be certain, Adrian. Okay, yes. The device lights up, after which Alice closes the box and places it back on her desk. Alright then, we'll take your word for it. Now what? Do I work for the bar now, or... Well, yes and no. Huh? Here, let me explain. Alice proceeds to move out of the way of the large panel behind her that's displaying multiple images and paragraphs of text. There was a picture of a tower, one that looked quite familiar. Then a block of text that seems to be an article under it. The headline is about the Eden Corp. That would make the building Eden Tower. The very same tower has a miniature version displayed in the center of the plaza's fountain. I'm sure you're well versed about Eden Corp and its humble beginnings here in Bayline City. They're the main reason why this country's among the leading ones in the first world. Yep, you can hardly miss that fact because all of our advancements technologically that are present in today's society. Expanding from medical technology to all branches of technology, then to philanthropic work. You'd be forgiven if you thought that they were the most benevolent entity. Sadly, that isn't the whole story. It's not? But how? Well, what do you get when you're the reason for a large party success? Power? Exactly. Ever since Eden Corp's CEO Evelyn Eden made her advancements in the industry, her company started to become a focal point for lots of favors and benefits. Problem is, it was the government that quickly became the company's #1 backer. After a few years, they turned the government into their lapdog, using the power that they had achieved to exert more control over the city and the country at large. That's when the shitty stuff started to happen. Max suddenly interjects from his corner, catching everyone off guard. Yes, in an instant lives were ruined. Entire neighborhoods either destroyed or turned into industrialized versions of what they once were. They gave the choice for people to monopolize and submit to the power of the company's expanding scope, or eliminate those that dare not to. He says it rather grimly, a hint of disdain to his tone. Well, we don't need to explain that all in detail. You've experienced it for yourself. I guess that's true. When everything begins to settle in my mind, a realization suddenly hits me hard. Wait, so the thing that happened to me is also happening to dozens of other people? By the boatload, sometimes more, sometimes less, at times experiencing a worse fate than you had. Then all of those protests against the Eating Corp? The flickering embers of hope in people whose lives were ruined by the company. But if there's that many people protesting, why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Well, would you bite the hand that feeds you? All of those lives ruined in exchange for those who are left to benefit from the company's advancement. I thought to myself for a moment, some things don't add up about this whole thing. This can't be all that there is behind Eating Corp, right? All that technology that I enjoy and use every day, it's all built on the exploited lives of countless people. I haven't heard any of these before. None of these stories ever went public. They have eyes and ears everywhere. Even if we did find a journalist who was willing to report on it, the technology that surrounds them would only serve to strengthen their bias. So, what do we do? What do all of you have to do with Eating Corp anyway? Well, we're gonna be fighting fire with fire. What? They want to control other people's lives from the shadows, so we'll just bring the fucking fight to the shadows, too. What we do can be summarized like that, yeah. We use the guise of a bar to clear away as much suspicion as we can while we fight to level the playing field for everyone. So you guys are like some sort of resistance? Someone has to fight for the helpless. Oswald poses rather heroically in front of me, causing Alice to chuckle a bit. My god, stop that. You're making me want to hurl my breakfast out. Adrian seems to appreciate it. Yeah. That made me realize I was blushing in front of them, making me want to cover my face a little out of embarrassment. Okay, now that that's all settled, time to give you a grander tour of the place. Also, don't you and Max have some training to do? Oh, right. I was rushing because of that. Kinda zoned out back there. Just go take Max and leave. She says abruptly, unamused at Oswald's apparent cluelessness. Right. Heya, Max, time to. I was waiting on you, bud. Of course you were. Been waiting to unwind in the training room. Oswald places his arm around Max's shoulder as he said that, half hugging the tiger. Get off of me. Not until we get there. Then both of them disappear into the hallway behind me, leaving me alone with Alice. Alright, now that they're gone, time to get you better acquainted with the place. Huh? Already? Yep, can't have you being a lost, deadweight puppy for too long. Right. Just, what have I gotten myself into? One day I'm living my life, being a DJ in a gig for some big bar, then all of a sudden I'm part of some underground resistance group? And here I thought I would only be staying for at least one night in a comfy bed too. Kind of a huge leap in the sequence of events there, I'd say. I didn't even have any time to dawdle on the absurdity of this whole situation though, as Alice is already pulling me towards a short opening just across the hallway Max and Oswald went through. Let's start with the infirmary. Okay, just please stop tugging on my jacket. Oh? Sorry. Just don't be too slow, alright? I'll try to keep up. We walk towards a rather short hallway with little to no bends or intersections, with a set of double doors at the end of the path. Alice stops briefly to unlock the door and open them for me to get a good look at the infirmary. This is the infirmary. You can have any bruises or wounds fixed up, or any cuts and gashes stitched here. And believe me, You'll be getting a lot of them. Well, that's quite a comforting thought. Oh, and don't go inside the other set of doors over there unless someone explicitly tells you, okay? Alright. Okay, the infirmary is starting to give me the creeps right now, and I'm not here for it. I just hope that whatever they're gonna make me do doesn't involve me having to visit this place way too often. What's wrong? Your fur's all bristled. Nothing, just anxious. Let's move on, shall we? Okay, if you say so. Alice ushers me out of the infirmary, right back into the lounge. We then make a turn towards the hallway, but instead of going right into the rooms, we go straight ahead. The door back there leads to the kitchen. It doesn't get used very often, only for when Oswald and I get the meals ready for the team. Just opposite that is the greenhouse, another place you shouldn't go to without explicit permission. It dawns on me that the two restricted doors seem to lead to the same general area. Curiosity fills my mind, and I eventually cave in. Why can't I go there exactly? Well, that place connects to the testing labs my partner and I use. We make just about everything that the team needs for any assignment they might get tasked to do. What kind of assignments? Oh, you know, recon missions, occasional heists, here and there. Everyone's got their style and spin on finishing their tasks, and me and my partner try our best to accommodate those with the right tools. So you're kind of an inventor? For the team, yes. No one else has the correct handle on it, so I took up the task. Maybe someday I'll be able to set you up with some better gear once I get to know your specific style better, starting with that jacket. My jacket? What's wrong with it? Don't think I didn't notice that you bought that from Neon Peaks. Same place I buy my clothing, but I did hide that one away so nobody could buy and wear it around during my last visit at the plaza. No wonder I had to look for it in some secluded shelf. You say something? Nothing. Alice just shrugs and continues with the tour. She walks into the hallway and eventually reaching an opening at the end. There were sounds of hollowed-out steps coming from the direction, and I can see a sort of platform, as well as the shuffling legs of a familiar tiger and wolf pair. Last but not least, this is the training room. You'll most likely be using this place a lot if you're to do some legwork out in the field. You mean work in the field? Revolutions don't happen while you're lazying about in the base all day, you know. Not unless you're me, that is. Alice peeks a bit into the training room before grabbing me by the arm. She places me beside her as I get the full view of the entire place. The entrance is mostly blocked by a boxing ring with Oswald and Max in the middle of a sparring session inside. And just next to it is a few weights, as well as some panels. To the distance is what looks like a shooting range, all lined up with long vertical divisions. Well, this is where the tour ends. I still have to set up everything for you, so you can watch these two while they bruise each other's faces in the meantime. Alright, thanks for showing me around. You better not get lost now. Alice turns around towards the direction of the lounge as I proceed to shamble my way around the ring. Oswald and Max are going at it, exchanging quick blows, little to none of them ever really connecting. As I continue to watch them, it becomes apparent how agile Oswald is compared to Max, but the tiger's strikes were a lot more fierce in comparison. I could feel the wind-breaking aura of Max's jabs. Then, as Max goes in for one quick strike on Oswald's muzzle, the wolf quickly evades it, landing a quick strike directly on the tiger's stomach. This causes Max to stagger a bit, coughing as he falls to his knees. 4-3, Max. One more strike and I win. Gah, you're so fucking slippery. And you waste stamina trying to make every stroke count. What did I tell you about long tussles? Only wind up the ones that can connect, right? Exactly. Sorry, just been in a bad mood since that husk. That's when Max's eyes fall on me, prompting him to do a double take. He quickly clicks his tongue as he enters his closed-off form again. Oswald approaches and places his paw on Max's shoulder before giving him a stern look. The tiger only scoffs as he makes his way to lean on one of the corners of the ring. Oswald then turns to me, putting some of the weight on the ropes of the side closest to me. "Hey Adrian, glad to see you've done with the tour." "Yeah, it went by pretty quickly." "Holy shit, I gotta admit, I'm not just nervous because it's Oswald. Those biceps. His suit was hiding all of that muscle?" Sure, his pecs were poking out, but there was enough suspension of disbelief that it wasn't just a muscle. But he's toned all over. No. I compose myself. But then Max isn't all that bad either. No, stay focused. Just watch and learn from their form. It was pretty nice, watching them fight. They looked like professionals out there, and they were so stoic and hyper-focused on each other. Their bodies, though, all tensed and sweaty. Ugh, why did this mood have to strike me now? Damn you, my inconsistent sleep routine. Are you gonna stay and watch? It won't be for long though, because I'm about to whoop this guy's ass. Hey, don't count your victories if you haven't even worn them yet. I still got some fight left in me, and then some. His gaze drills into me as he says that last part. Oh. Prove it then. Max lets out a huff, tugging on his vest a bit. I attentively watch as he... Oh no, he's taking his vest off. Oh god, not now. Okay, remind yourself that he's an asshole. Remind yourself that he hasn't been nice to you at all. And that he's taking off his shirt. Gah! I quietly exclaim as I quickly block my face with my paws. Max doesn't notice though, his focus completely on Oswald. The wolf, on the other hand. Show off. I take a peek through the gaps between my fingers and... Oh no. Is that Oswald's back? Oh, please don't turn around, please don't turn around. Wait, was that a piece of clothing? I lower my hands to see that it's definitely Oswald's crumbled up clothes in front of me, drenched in sweat. I try to resist with all my goddamn might, being a pervert in front of them. Oh god, how does Dylan even manage to stay flaccid with co-workers like these? Ready? I attempt to calm myself down, trying to contain myself enough to just watch the sparring match like a normal person. Oswald and Max begin circling each other, gauging for an opening to show itself. But then, I get a good look at Oswald's front side. Is that a treasure trail? Oh god. As I exhale to alleviate the heat welling up within me, they charge violently at each other. Max doesn't hesitate, going straight for Oswald's muzzle, but the wolf manages to box himself in, making himself harder to hit. This causes Max's strikes to miss, allowing Oswald to have a clear shot at Max's side. Predictable. Max suddenly pivots when he sees Oswald beginning to wind up a strike. He twists his form and smoothly positions himself behind the wolf. This catches Oswald off guard, making him stumble a bit in the direction opposite of where Max is. He quickly recovers though, stopping himself just by the edge of the ring. But Max was already closing in on Oswald, while the wolf attempted to quickly turn around to face the tiger. He wasn't able to turn fast enough, as evident by Max quickly striking him straight in the muzzle. This causes the wolf to fall onto the floor. Make that 4-4. Max quickly fumes from his nostrils, turning to glance at me before looking back at the recovering Oswald. That was a nice hit, Oswald says while he holds the lower part of his jaw, slowly standing back up. As he does this, he quickly gives me a side-eye and sees that I'm being a nervous wreck. He smirks and gives me a quick wink before turning back his attention to the tiger. Nice hit, Max. He begins pacing around the ring again, rather playfully this time, but the tiger was having none of it. What the hell are you doing? I'm just taking a bit of the edge off. Your punches still give me the tingles, you know. Really? Just tingles? Something wrong? Wanted it to be more than that? Oh, you little... Max, now agitated, pounces at Oswald, accompanied by a series of punches in tow. The wolf manages to dodge most of them while skillfully blocking the rest. The fight plays out as if he was dancing around his infuriated opponent. The tiger's patience shortens by the second, making his attacks less calculated, but instead more wild and unhinged. Oswald takes advantage of Max's rage when it reaches its peak and suddenly closes in, placing one of his feet in front of Max's, making the tiger trip and falling flat on his face. Hehe, 5-4. I call that a win. Oswald offers his paw, but Max just shoves it away. The tiger eventually manages to stand on his own, revealing that his nose is bleeding. Max, your nose. What's it to you, pup? You know what? You've been getting on my fucking... Before Max manages to blow up at me, Oswald intervenes. Better get that checked, Max. You can talk to him later. Max stutters a bit, rage quickly deflating before defeatedly walking towards the exit, leaving me and Oswald alone in the process. Heh, quite the temper, no? You can say that again. Oswald looks around a bit, noticing his shirt crumbled up just behind me. He makes a slight motion to pick it up, but one glance my way and he changes his mind. So, wanna see the shooting range? I take a quick, discreet glance at his pecs, which are directly in front of my face. Up to you? That settles it then. Follow me. Oswald begins pacing in the direction of the shooting range. I'm left to wonder why he left his shirt. Aren't you gonna put that shirt back on? After it's gotten all drenched in sweat? I don't think so. It's too hot for one anyway. I follow Oswald's lead towards the shooting range. Once there, he fiddles around with the pistol that's already placed on one of the rows. The target in front of him is about a few feet away, but Oswald just loads the magazine into the gun before aiming at what he had his sights on without a hint of hesitation. I take a few side steps around him while stealing myself, fully expecting loud noises to come out of the barrel. Oswald takes a deep breath as he places his finger on the trigger and pulls it without a moment's pause. The shots that come out are surprisingly silent, meaning the barrel has a suppressor. The target, looking rather new, makes the fresh bullet holes stick out even more on the clean board. Every shot of his is a bullseye, with little to no deviation from each other. Whoa. Oswald breathes out, his tense grip loosening on the gun. Phew, that loosened my muscles up quite nicely, nothing like a good jolt of the recoil to set things straight. He looks at me with a rather expectant expression. I just stand there completely clueless about what it is that he wants. What is it? Nothing. Sorry. I'll just keep shooting. Yeah, sure. Did he just up and accidentally stare at me? Or is it just my imagination talking? I start getting flustered while the image of him looking at me repeatedly plays in my head. I continue watching him shoot with the utmost accuracy, his arms barely even moving despite taking the blunt of the recoil, his rigid form accentuating just how well built he is. Sweat drips across my head to the sides of my muzzle before I realize that I'm blushing. Again. I attempt to recompose myself as quickly as I can muster, managing to do so just fast enough for Oswald to finish putting the pistol down. I straighten myself up, letting the heat and tension in my body dissipate, ending with me relaxing my balled-up hands, flailing them as subtly as I can. As I breathe out a silent sigh, though, I hear a silent whoosh past me. A sharp pain starts to radiate across my body, starting from my outer ear. Oswald's ears suddenly perk up, and he quickly turns to fix his gaze behind me. What the? I fail to notice the figure quietly emerging from the darkness of a column situated behind me, because the pain in my ear has most of my attention. I put my paw to it in reflex only to feel the warm dampness. When I place my paw in front of my eyes, I see that it's stained with a thick red liquid. My ear is bleeding. So, this is the new face you've told me about, Oz. Footsteps ring across the now mostly quiet training room as the figure slowly becomes illuminated by the light. It was a man, about as tall as Dylan. He looks like a raccoon. That mask-like fur pattern. There's no mistaking it. He has a slightly smoking pistol, similar to Oswald's in his hand. Did he just shoot and graze my ear? Adrian, your ear! Oswald quickly rushes to my side before fixing his gaze on the raccoon that now stands in front of us. Benji! Yes? You don't need to shout, you know. I'm only about 3 feet in front of you. What the fuck is wrong with you? Hey, it's not my fault that you were putting up such a pitiful display for him. The Oz I know can shoot 3 times farther. Clearly you're just showing off. Urgh. Oswald seems to be simmering in frustration, but the raccoon, apparently named Benji, remains unfazed. And, last I checked, those rows were 10 feet. Showing off wasn't the point of me bringing him here. Oh, it wasn't? Well, forgive me for not reading the room correctly, Oz. I do bet that our little friend over there would agree that you were, though. Benji looks at me rather flippantly, while fiddling with his pistol. Well, since you say it wasn't just for show, how about we let him have a go at one of the targets? Oswald stammers a bit at that worry written on his face. But... No, Oswald. I want to see if you've got the same eye for quality as I do. Benji approaches and just casually hands me the pistol, like he didn't just graze my ear. Now then, would you be so kind as to show... Don't even fuck around with him, Benji! Oswald physically puts some distance between Benji and me. My, aren't we being a little too defensive? Fine. Just take him to the infirmary then. Oswald grips my shoulder tightly before placing me beside him. He looks at my ear rather perturbed, leading me out of the training room. Come on, Adrian. We'll get that ear all bandaged up. Oswald and I make our way towards the infirmary, as the wolf wears a rather grim expression while he avoids looking at me. I feel awkward in this half-embrace as we continue on our way in silence, feeling his grip loosen bit by bit along the way. He's been defensive and showy around me today. It feels a little territorial, now that I think about it. The silence between us continues to gnaw at me as we make the turn into the lounge. Eventually, it makes me cave in, and I prepare to speak. Just as I'm about to say something, though, Oswald suddenly speaks over me. Sorry. His ears drop down as he speaks, his gaze still averted. We take a brief pause at the entrance of the infirmary. What for? Oswald lets out a heavy sigh. Benji's right. I shouldn't be hesitating to train you. Train me? For what? Oswald then opens the door and puts up a face for me. Come on, let's get you fixed up first. Oswald ushers me towards an examination chair. Sit here. I do as he says and sit myself down while he gathers up some supplies. Silence fills the room once more as Oswald takes the bandage roll and begins dressing the wound on my ear. I'm assaulted by a quick, sharp pain when he tightens the loop. Ugh. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Oswald starts wrapping again, more cautiously this time. He's surprisingly gentle and much more dexterous than I anticipated. The bandages will disinfect the wound. It'll also quicken the healing process. One of Eden Corp's many contributions to the medical field. Oswald stays silent for a bit. His gaze seems to falter briefly. Yes. I had the impression that the Midnight Sun would, I don't know, boycott anything Eden Corp produces. We're quite pragmatic. Just because they're made by some evil corporation doesn't mean the actual products are. I guess that's true. You did have a hard light emitters installed at the bar, too. More silence. Oswald finishes up the bandages. He then takes a step back to examine his handiwork. There we go. Should be mostly healed by tomorrow. Thanks. Oswald smiles at me, but it quickly fades away. Something's bothering him, and I'm not one to just ignore that. How do I go about it, though? Maybe some small talk? So, Benji, huh? Oswald gives me a look, probably surprised by my attempt at conversation. He doesn't fumble around with his answer, though. What about him? He just seems kinda difficult to be with. That's just who he is. He tends to rub people the wrong way. He's a good dude to be around, I swear. Oswald sighs to himself once again. He still rubs me the wrong way sometimes, to be completely honest. The wolf then pouts, sort of like how a kid would. To be honest, it's quite cute. He starts fidgeting with his fingers, and his muzzle twitches from time to time. It looks like he wants to say something, and I suppose I should meet him halfway. Have you known him for a while? For quite a bit, yeah. It was actually by chance. It just so happened to be at the place he was robbing that night. Robbing? He's a thief? A damn good one at that. Being a raccoon certainly helps in that regard. He has those built-in genetics for stealth. I caress my bandaged ear a bit. Is being a good shot one of them? Oswald chuckles. Maybe. But talent can only get you so far. Suddenly the door to the labs opens. Someone else, who I hadn't seen before, walks out. A Siamese cat? Oh, hey there, Ellie. Hello, Oswald. Oswald turns to lean on the examination chair as the cat named Allie carries a basket filled with canisters with her. When she passes by, a thick scent fills the air, making it hard to breathe. Jeez, what is that stuff? Allie turns around to us, but her expression is rather meek and reserved. They're smoke grenades, that Benji? Ellie's eyes widen at the sight of Benji coming into the infirmary. Speak of the devil. Hello, Benji. Here are the... You sure we should be talking? There... I already told you, if you ever needed to drop things off like these, either ask someone else or just leave them in front of my room. Benji speaks in a grim and spiteful tone, all the while refusing to even look at Allie. Well, you were right there. Did I stutter? Now get a move on. You're ruining the view. Allie does as she's told, going at a pace of a half sprint on her way out towards the hallway. Well, that certainly was a mess. What in the world is this guy's problem? What do you want, Benji? Two things. Benji tosses a piece of cloth towards Oswald. It manages to cover his entire face, so Oswald has to pull it off. Don't worry, that came fresh from the laundry. Your dirty clothes were scattered all over the training room. Benji then trails his gaze on me. I also wanted to check in on him. I didn't even get his name, all because you had so rudely pulled away. Oswald sighs at the raccoon's remark. The atmosphere is beginning to feel a little awkward. His name's Adrian. Couldn't you have told me sooner? Had you not made his ear bleed, I would have... I suppose I did do that. But then I wouldn't have been able to gauge out quite a few things. Benji pauses for a moment before making eye contact with me again. Adrian, was it? Can you give Oswald and me some privacy? What do you even have to say that can't be said in front of Adrian? Ugh, stop being so antagonistic. I managed to gather some interesting information during my last recon mission. It has the potential to forward our plans faster, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Ah, I see. Adrian? Oswald gives me a gentler nudge. I take that as my cue to skedaddle. You should be nicer to Ellie, you know. You wouldn't get it, Oz. I have good reasons. Do you? Their conversation continues until I eventually get out of earshot. I stand idly by one of the couches in the lounge before I realize that I have nothing else to do. Maybe I could catch up on some sleep. I still feel kind of groggy. Later that night. Hmm. The faint sound of footsteps echoes through the darkness in the abyss of my mind. It reverberates across the imaginary walls of this void I have found myself in. I try my best to ignore it. Slowly, it fades from my hearing. As the sounds dissipate, a door slowly materializes from nothingness. A piece of paper containing the words eviction notice plastered in front of it flutters in the wind before being blown away by a sudden gust. I flinched when I realized that paper was flying towards me. Then a much stronger gust of wind blasts the doors open, the force hitting my face, obscuring my vision. What little I can make out, though, is a pair of red gleaming eyes. It glares menacingly through the doorway, seeming to peer through my soul. I'm eventually pulled back into reality. I'd half a mind to just ignore whatever that was and go to sleep again. But those footsteps... They had quite an eerie quality to them, so I know for sure that I am not going to be able to sleep without at least checking it out. I get up and take a few steps out of my room, looking through the doorway across both ends of the hallway. Nothing. I can't believe I'm doing this. It feels a bit childish, kind of like I'm checking for some monsters inside my closet, only it's a wandering monster around this rather populated space. Ugh, why the hell am I even like this? I walk around and eventually head to the lounge quietly, surveying my surroundings ever so often. As I turn through one of the columns, I hear steady footsteps heading directly towards me. They were quite similar to the footsteps I'd heard earlier. I quickly turn to look behind me, the sound surely coming from someone close. I can only make out the exit of the base, but I manage to see someone come forward and linger by the doorway. Those piercing red eyes. Benji? What's he doing, sneaking out in the middle of the night? He's being quite cautious too, looking behind him regularly and everything. A few moments later, with one quick motion, Benji heads into and disappears to the opposite side of the corridor. I motion to follow him, but before I'm able to do so, a familiar female voice calls out to me. Adrian? Huh? I turn around to see Alice looking at me with a confused look on her face. Why are you skulking around in the middle of the night? Well, I was... Damn it, why am I the one looking like the sneaky one when Benji's the one moving about stealthily? Then again, I could just be overreacting. The others might be well aware of this. Maybe I should just ask and see if the other people know about it before making assumptions. I don't want to bring any unwanted aggression from him towards me, that's for sure. My injured ear serves as a good reminder of that. Adrian, you're spacing out. Oh shit, gotta stop it with the habit of mine. Even Dylan reminds me I have to have more spatial awareness, and no, I'm not doing it again. Just act normal and focus. Okay. Sorry, something caught my attention. What are you doing up so late? Alice raises an eyebrow at me. Me? I should be asking you that. What, you mean you always stay up this late? Yes. Is there a problem with that? Well, I guess not. Right. Can we not dwell on my sleep schedule, please? Besides, you being awake saves me the trouble. Trouble? What trouble? At that moment, I hear footsteps coming from the hallway. They're faint, but they're getting purposefully louder. We're We're just waiting for someone to get here. From the hallway? Alice gives me a surprised look. Well, yes. How can you tell? I can hear the footsteps. I've got really good hearing. It helps me a lot when I'm making and mixing tracks. Good to know. Just as Alice finishes speaking, Oswald comes out of the hallway and into the lounge. Alright, Alice. I'm here. What's this all about? Oswald then notices me, surprise forming on his face. He got here before me? Either that or you didn't notice him passing by. Oswald only raises a brow at me. I only respond with a shrug. Alice chuckles before redirecting her attention back to her. Follow me. I have something to show the both of you. We trail behind Alice as she makes her way to her workspace. The tigress then passes a panel to Oswald as soon as she arrives. The wolf grabs and quickly skims through it with a rather stoic and focused expression on his face. A charity party? Yep, Benji had an inside man open up a lot of options for us. The charity party's going to be held in a place with a lot of data servers we can raid. I can get into the Eden Corp's plans through that. Oswald glances my way, then looks back at Alice. What does he have to do with it? As much as I hate to admit it, the surveillance systems are too complex for the available tech I have right now. Luckily, Benji's contact has opened up a spot for someone savvy with some sound tech. Alice points at me, not breaking eye contact with Oswald. That's where he comes in. I have to be a DJ? Pretty much. The only catch is that you're also gonna serve as a living surveillance for Benji and Oswald. Sounds easy, right? Oswald slowly growls under his breath. Are you sure this is low risk like we talked about? Trust me, the only way things can get ugly is if you and Benji get caught. Even then, Adrian should be safely evacuated by security. He'll be fine. Oswald thinks for a moment, exchanging a few concerned glances my way. On the topic of his safety, though, this should ensure that you two can keep tabs on each other. Alice hands me a familiar box, the same one she showed me during my initiation. Adrian, Oswald, from this moment on, you two will be partners. Partners? I look to Oswald for an explanation, but he remains thrilled in thought. You will be with Benji on this, and we can't fuck this up, so I'm counting on all of you. Oswald finally seems to finish his contemplation, giving Alice an understanding smile. We won't disappoint. I know you won't. Now get some extra Z's. We'll have only about a week before the party happens. Better get prepared before then. We both nod before walking off. As we make our way, I notice Oswald continuously smirking to himself. Partners, huh? Haven't had one in a while. Oswald seems to loosen up as he says, letting out a big yawn while he stretches. You had one before? Yep, didn't work out though. Too many complications and all that. I wonder for a moment. Are they still around? You mean alive? Yes. Walking around the base? Also yes. Well, that clears up a lot. Well, care to tell me who it was? Oswald suddenly falls silent. Must be a personal thing. Forget I asked. Oswald nods before we stop. It seems like our respective rooms are across from each other. How convenient. Well, guess it's time to sleep. Yep. Oswald opens his door and takes a few steps inside before looking back at me. Good night, partner. Oswald smiles at me before closing his door. I smile to myself in response. Good night, Oswald. And to be continued. Oof. I recorded all of this in one long episode, but I'm going to have to cut it up for 2 episodes. Anyways, so that was, I guess, the prologue and the first part of Eden's Reach. So what did you guys think? Did you guys like this? Did you want to see more of this? because I'm probably gonna add this to the the rotation. So yeah. Um, well, here are the credits of the people who worked on Eden's Reach, or who are working on it, I should say. And the top one is Azzyford, the creator. And right there at the bottom, while Tapioca I recognize because they do a lot of like fan art animation type things of Far Beyond the World. So that was like an instant like, oh, I recognize that art style. Anyways, thank you all for watching slash listening. If you would like to play Eden's Reach yourself, there will be a link down in the description. If you would like to support the project, I will put a link down for a Patreon if it exists. And if you would like to follow the author, I would also put a link down for their Twitter if I can find it. And I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys later. Bye bye.